Good evening and good afternoon and welcome. We will start today's session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We want to allow everyone an opportunity to join us. So again, welcome, and we will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. For those of you that have just joined, welcome. We will begin our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So we've got a couple more minutes to allow others to join. So again, welcome, and we'll start at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. And I'm based out of the Midwest here. It's balmy 70 degrees with overcast, but we'll get through it. Hopefully you're somewhere comfortable. A little bit about my background. I've been in the IT for about 30 years now. I've played several roles, mostly stemming around data. I've been a database administrator, database designer, DevOps, and of course, a technical trainer. So let's go ahead and get started. Enough about me. Let's get this party on the road. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. or the Q&A. I will try to get to them as fast as I can. So again, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. All right, so again, welcome to our Sumo Generalist Fundamentals Certification session. Our objectives or agenda for this course is to give you that 500-foot overview of the Sumo Logic environment. Then I'll go through a demo where I will demonstrate monitoring and troubleshooting. Then you and I will have the opportunity to log into our training environment where we'll be able to view all the collected data. We'll be able to search and parse and analyze data. Through that analysis, we'll be able to identify trends and be able to look at critical events. Then we'll be able to create and modify our dashboards and create some alerts, okay? Then the last hour or last 60 minutes is allotted for you to go ahead and get certified in the fundamentals. Once you take the exam and you pass the exam, because I'm sure you'll be able to do it, we'll send you, we will post in the chat during the exam the link for you to fill out the form to receive your $15 Uber Eats voucher. We're glad that you're here. We're happy that you're going to take the exam. So we're going to go ahead and give you that Uber Eats voucher once you pass the exam. All right, so let's find out, how does Sumo Logic help us, help me, help you, okay? I'm going to save some bandwidth here and turn off my video and allow you to go ahead and focus on the lecture and the slides. So what you're seeing on the screen now is you're seeing four different types of dashboards, okay? Now, as I mentioned in my career, I worked for DevOps. So I would come into the DevOps center, look for the Unix machine, log in, look for the logs, and then I'd issue some grep statements, which essentially allows me to search through those logs and find out there was any issues. Had I been fortunate enough to have the continuous intelligence platform that Sumo Logic offers, I could have created a dashboard and I could have created an operational dashboard. So when I came in the morning into DevOps, I could have looked at the dashboard and found out the system's health. I could have found out, are any systems down? I could have found out if there were any types of mean times to identify issues or mean time to resolve issues. I could have gleaned all that information from an operational intelligence dashboard that you can create in our tool. From a security perspective, could have created a dashboard that would allow us to find out who is using root access. Are there any persons logging into multiple locations simultaneously? So I could have found out user information and login information from a security perspective. From a business perspective, let's imagine that we issued a marketing campaign last month. We can identify how successful or not that marketing campaign is. We can find out what pages are people frequently viewing on our websites. What are they ordering? Okay, so again, we could have gleaned that type of information from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, we're comparing our data worldwide to other companies. So we could look at a global perspective of how our data compares. What I'm describing, ladies and gentlemen, is four different types of dashboards that you can create in the continuous intelligence platform, okay? Now, how do you get to create those dashboards? Well, your data your logs and your metrics, all of that massive volumes of machine generated logs and metrics, we need to capture that, okay? That's what we're going to use to allow you to build those dashboards. So if your logs and metrics are in the apps and microservices, maybe they're in the cloud already, mobile devices or third party, wherever your logs and metrics are, that's going to allow us to build those dashboards and find out any issues that may be happening. Now, what does our tool offer? Well, one of the key things about our tool is it is a multi-tenancy environment, which means things are very secure. We take security as a high priority in our environment, okay? Now, if you need to grow your needs or your needs to lessen, we're elastic. We will meet your needs. We're scalable, okay? You're going to see me mention some machine learning and advanced analytics once we start getting into the tool, okay? Some companies, they incorporate Sumo Logic into other of their products by using APIs, application programming interfaces. So we support those as well. And then finally, over to the right here, you'll see security and monitoring. You'll see the flyout window. These are our attestments, okay? We're SOC 2 certified, FedRAMP certified, HIPAA certified. So we take, again, our security very highly, and our certifications as well, very high. And these are just some of the certifications that we list here. And then finally, your people. Again, what we mean by that is you can achieve collaboration across all lines of your business from a single source, and it helps to make speedy decision making. Again, essentially all we're saying here is whatever you create and find and want to share, you have that capability of sharing across your organization. So the big takeaway for this 500-foot overview is some of the features that we allow you to do with dashboards. How do you create those dashboards? We're utilizing your data and your metrics. Our tool provides analytics for you, and your people will be able to share any findings. Now, from a monitoring perspective, there's actually 3 phases to it, okay? You want to be alerted to be notified of anything that's critical, okay? Once you're alerted, then you want to identify what's going on by looking at your metrics. Once you find out what's going on, you'll then identify why it's happening by looking at the logs. That's the process flow of monitoring and troubleshooting. Now you'll notice down here under alerts, we have the capability of using or connecting to various alerting systems. So you'll see me use Slack. There's some webhooks where you can create to other alerting systems. There's HipChat, ServiceNow. So again, we have several choices to create a alerting system. Now, what I want to do is give you just a quick demo of monitoring and troubleshooting. I'm going to lean on your imagination for a minute, and I want you to imagine that I worked for a travel company, okay? And I'm going to log into that travel company now. And one of the things I do at my travel company is I come into the actual data center, and I go straight to the actual alerting system, okay? So here's our Slack, okay? And what I can see right away is my production environment for the travel logic environment, travel agency that I'm doing. It has 3 alerts. I want to look at my production 9, okay? So again, what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, is simulating a monitoring of a system, okay? And the system that I'm monitoring is the travel logic environment, okay? Right now, I'm looking at our alert system. It has some alerts. Production 9 server has an alert. So I'm going down into my Slack. This is our alerting system. And I can see that there was a gateway response time outlier, okay? I can see the time that it occurred as well. Now, we've set up this here alert, but we also set up the ability to go and find out more about this alert by clicking on this here link that leads us to a dashboard. So this go to operational overview, when I click on it, it actually takes me to a 12 panel dashboard, which is more of a high level dashboard. It's an overview, okay? So what it led me to is I'm actually inside of the continuous intelligence platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just doing a demo. You'll have the opportunity to get into the tool momentarily. So let me go through the demo, okay? While I'm leaning on your imagination, I want you to also keep in your minds a traffic light, okay? With a traffic light, we know red means stop, find out what's wrong, okay? Green means go, it's good, okay? Yellow is a warning, keep an eye on. So we see we have some green here. Our service nodes are good. Our payment services is good. And our product service is good. Odell, what are we doing? Well, what I did was I went to our alerting system because I work for a travel company, Travel Logic, and I went to our alerting system. In our alerting system, it allowed me to go to a dashboard. I'm looking at a dashboard that was built off of the alerting system. Again, as I mentioned, red is something we need to kind of investigate. So we can see that our elasticity was it's some red there, the load balancing is bad, our job queues is filling up, but most often our checkout service is filling up, okay? Now, another feature that you can build in our tool off of dashboards, right now I'm in a 12 panel dashboard. Each one of these boxes is a panel. Each panel represents an underlying query, okay? So again, there's a query underneath each one of these. But one other feature that we have is we have the ability to drill, where we can go to an even more detailed dashboard. So right now I can click on this checkout service. Right now I'm in the overview dashboard. If I click on the checkout service, it actually takes me to a more detailed dashboard where I have 6 panels. Under each one of these panels is an underlying relationship, underlying query, okay? Now, let me digress for a moment. I went to the alerting system and I clicked on the icon that brought me to the overview. I could have also, ladies and gentlemen, went into the alerting system and clicked on the service detail link. So what I'm demonstrating is multiple ways to get to the dashboard. We could have just logged into the Sumo Logic CIP, went to the dashboard, or we can go through it to our alerting system, okay? So my alerting system, again, brought me to the same place, essentially. I'm looking at the Travel Logic service detail, where I'm looking at 6 panels. I can see my bookings. Everything was good, green is good, and all of a sudden I started receiving messages. I can see errors with over the last 7 days. I can see errors by node, my latency. I can see I have some outliers, some peaks and spikes in my latencies. I can also see over here in my CPU and total memory that I have some spikes and peaks, okay? Other features that you can do within our dashboards and our panels is our legends are interactive. So over to the right, I see a legend of successes and failures. I can hide my successes by clicking on it. And now I'm focusing on only my actual failures, okay? Now, again, our goal was to, one, get notified of a critical event, which I did. I was notified through Slack, okay? Slack allowed me to actually open up 2 dashboards, okay? Now, we can see over here in our CPU and total memory, there's some spikes, some peaks and so on. One of our other features that you can do is you can actually click on this icon in the top right corner of this panel to actually look at the metrics, okay? Remember that actual demo was to demonstrate the flow of monitoring. So I got alerted, I'm now going to look at the metrics. So I'll hold down my shift key and click on this icon, show in metrics. It's going to launch the tab that has the underlying metrics and the underlying query. Okay. So let's sort of describe what you're seeing here. In this metrics, in case you ever see this on an exam, this is a heat map, okay? The darker the shade of color, the more messages, okay? So again, in your metrics, you'll see a heat map. The darker the color, the more messages, okay? Down below, we're actually seeing the actual metrics that we're measuring. We're measuring CPU and total memory, okay? Here's the underlying query, okay? Now I can bring the query into focus by another technique that we have. We can click on any one of these heat map cells by holding down our shift key and left mouse clicking, and it'll launch the actual underlying search. All right, so just to kind of recap, ladies and gentlemen, we started out at Slack being alerted. We then went to our dashboard and looked at our metrics. Okay, so this is our metrics. This tab here is our metrics. And then we actually clicked on one of the heat mapped items to get to our underlying logs. Now, let's take a look at this actual log search. It's using a metadata tag, and we'll talk about those coming up. It's equating that metadata tag to the checkout logs. It's using a keyword, error and exception, okay? If we run this, we should see throughout our actual query, errors and exceptions throughout this query, okay? Over here to the left is our field browser. We see it's done gathering results. We see the elapsed time and the total amount of results, okay? There's 423 items that have error or exception in them. I'm looking at page 1 of 17, okay? Now, that actual underlying query had a keyword where it's looking for error and exceptions. I actually want to look at all of my messages. So I'm going to remove the actual keyword and change the time. Again, we'll talk about the time as well, but my goal is to find out why this happened. We know what happened, that CPU and memory is, some spikes and peaks, okay? But we want to find out why it happened, okay? So what I'm doing now is I'm running my log message for the last 60 minutes, okay? And I want to see all of my checkout messages, okay? I can see that it is done gathering results, took about 3 seconds. There's over 27,000 checkout messages over the last 60 minutes, okay? I can also see my session ID if I ever need it. Now I can see the time the message occurred, and as well as the actual message. Now, we talked about that, the ability that the tool has when it comes to analytics. So we want to use some of that machine learning, that advanced analytics. One of the advanced analytic tools that I'm going to use is called log reduce. Essentially what log reduce does, ladies and gentlemen, it goes and looks for patterns in all 27,000 of these messages. And it groups those patterns together so you can find anomalies, okay? So again, I'm introducing you to the log reduce. We'll see it again later in class. But again, be aware it's changing my query. No longer I'm just looking at checkout, I'm piping, which means continue, and I'm utilizing the log reduce operator. Again, if we allow it to go ahead and finish gathering results, notice it's still gathering. I'll wait till it says done, and then I'll go ahead and explain the rest of what's going on. So again, it's done gathering results, took about 26 seconds. I still have 27,000 results. However, not only do I have a messages tab where my original messages are, but now I have a signatures tab, and that was created because of this machine learning, this here analytical tool, log reduce. Log reduce is telling me, hey, Odell, now yours might not read, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, I see this expression 10,000 times. So of the 27,000 results, 10,000 of them is this expression. Now you'll see there's asterisks here. So this credit card number is different in those 10,000 results. So that's why you see the asterisk. So when you see different values, you'll see the asterisk. One of the other features that you can do within our tool is you can change the sort order. So I'll click on my counts. Right now I'm in descending order and I want to be in ascending order. Okay. And my goal is to find out what happened. Okay. So I'm looking at these messages that my tool is now used analytical features. And I can see there's booking a car, successful, booking a flight. I can go here and see booking all the actual messages, credit options. And again, I'll eventually get to, as I page through here, where I can find out what happened. So I can see everything was successful. I'm looking at the end of my message. I'm seeing booking was successful. Again, something in the cart. And as I get to my third page, I'll start looking at items and I'll see, okay, charging a credit card, booking, okay, booking a hotel, payments was successful, credit card. Again, I'll continue to go through here and maybe they move my message that I'm looking for. Oh, here it is right here. So it says, hey, InfoBoot 27, Travelodge app started cluster prod 9. Okay, so that's perfect. It's a service checkout version 1.1 for dev. Okay, so that's, wait a minute. Can anyone see why there's a problem here? You can turn off your mics, or excuse me, you can put it in chat. I didn't turn on any mics tonight, so you can put it in chat. What's the problem here, ladies and gentlemen? Excellent. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Dan. They pointed out the dev. If you notice, ladies and gentlemen, we were in a production environment. Someone on my team or someone promoted a dev version in a production environment, okay? So again, that was my demo of monitoring and troubleshooting. Let's get back here to our slides here. And just to kind of recap that real quickly, we were alerted through Slack. Okay, we were able to go to our dashboard. Our dashboard allowed us to go look at our metrics. Our metrics allowed us to go look at the logs and find out what happened. That's the flow of monitoring and troubleshooting. Speaking of flow, ladies and gentlemen, there's a logical data flow. Okay, and what we mean by that is getting your logs and metrics into our Sumo Logic environment. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to lean on your imagination a lot here. You'll hear me say that, okay? If you can imagine a highway, okay? And on one end of the highway is Sumo Logic cloud environment. On the other end of the highway is, of course, your logs and your metrics. Somehow we have to use a vehicle to get your logs and metrics into our Sumo Logic environment. That vehicle is referred to as a collector, okay? That collector is where you define your sources, okay? That collector is a lightweight Java app. That collector is going to compress, encrypt, and send your logs and metrics to our environment, okay? If you want to learn more about data collectors, our administration course actually walks you through creating a collector, okay? So again, the key takeaway here is, again, you're using collectors to get your vehicle, that's the vehicle we're using to get your logs and metrics into our environment. That's where you're defining the sources of where your logs and metrics are. That's also, it's also encrypting, compressing, and sending. Once we have your logs and metrics in our environment, you and I are able to build some searches and analyze using operators. And we are able to display our results in different types of charts. We'll also build some visualizations because the numbers are great, Numbers are always great, but visualizations are the key forensic tool, okay, which allows us to monitor, build some alerts, and then present them in dashboards as well, okay? So that's the data flow. Get it in, build searches, share what you have, display it in different charts, build dashboards and alerts. Now, I know this slide looks overwhelming. I often tell students, we're going to divide this slide in halves. Okay, again, I was leaning on your imagination, and I am asked you to imagine a highway. So here's more of a depiction of that highway. So here's the actual Sumo Logic environment, and here's your actual logs and metrics. We're going to divide this slide into half and half. On one side, we see the one type of vehicle called the collector, install collector, and the other side of the vehicle, we see a hosted collector. So let's take a look at install collectors, okay? What you're seeing here is more of a distributed approach where we have an on-prem environment and we're installing the install collector on multiple machines. Again, it's going to encrypt, compress, and send it through the firewall up to the Sumo Logic environment. So this is a distributed approach for install collectors in an on-prem environment. Another approach for on-prem is maybe you have a dedicated server where you install your actual install collector here. And of course, it's feeded from other servers that's sending the logs and metrics to that centralized server. It's encrypting, compressing, and sending it up through the firewall into the Sumo Logic, okay? So on the left side, this is your on-prem approach. These are examples of a distributed versus a standalone install collector approach. On the other hand, the other type of collector is referred to as a hosted collector. There's no installation, ladies and gentlemen. Essentially, the hosted collector, it's already in the cloud. So if your logs and metrics are already in AWS, they're already in Azure, okay? They're already in Google Cloud, then essentially all we need from a Sumo Logic perspective is to know where those logs and metrics are and any credentials we need to host them, okay? So again, the big takeaway, there's two vehicles to get your logs and metrics into our environment. There's the hosted and the installed. Depending on where your logs and metrics are, if they're on-prem, you're going to use an install, hosted if they're already in the cloud. Now, what you're seeing on the slide here now is 5 different types of metadata tags. You'll see us use metadata tags to actually get to those logs and metrics in our Sumo Logic environment, okay? A metadata tag is essentially a tag given to a description, a name given to an description, okay? So there's 5 examples here. So you could utilize the underscore collector metadata tag where you're equating it to the host name, okay? That's a broad sense to get to a log or a metric, but it's possible. You can do it. Pardon me, you can do it. You might use a different approach where you want to use the underscore source name and set it equal to the name and path of the log file. Okay, if it moves, you're in trouble. But again, no big deal. You can use that instance as well. But what you're going to really take notice is to the one at the bottom where it's in bold. That's our preferred method. That's our recommended method. We're going to see, and you're going to see us utilize this here underscore source category metadata tag most often. Okay, so we can set our source category metadata tag to labs Apache era, labs Apache access, dev Apache, prod Apache, AWS East Apache, and so forth. So we're able to freely configure the source category. That's the one we'll use most often. That's the recommended approach. All right, so enough of me lecturing. Now we get the opportunity to log into Sumo Logic's training environment, okay? We know the training environment. We know the data, We know the environment, we manage it. We don't know your production environment. So that's why you're logging into our training environment. What I'd like each of you to do is think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999. Okay, think of a 3-digit number. Okay, now that 3-digit number you're going to use to log into our training environment. I am about to put the credentials to get into the training environment. I'd like for you to watch first so it'll work for you. Okay, again, I am going to launch a new browser, which is what you'll do. You'll launch a browser. Okay, you'll type in service.sumologic.com. Thank you, Deborah, for putting your number in the chat. I will ask you for your numbers as well. So thank you. You're ahead of the game. That's awesome. So once you type in that service.sumologic.com, you'll then go ahead and use the credentials that I have in chat. You'll type in training, the plus symbol, and the word analyst. You will replace the 3-digit number to the number that you want. Okay, and then sumologic.com. Then you'll use the password that I also put in the chat window. It is the logs 22 with an uppercase L. Let me make sure you're seeing that. Yeah, logs 2022 with an exclamation mark. Okay, so go ahead and give it a try. Please put your numbers in the chat so I can make sure that everybody has a number, a 3-digit number. Okay. Once you put your number in the chat, go ahead and log into our training environment, and please confirm that you were able to successfully log in. I don't want to leave any of you. Thank you, Janet. Again, thank you, Emily. Before you start clicking around, at least let everyone get in and out. We're going to kick the tires, look under the hood, drive the car around the block. Thank you, Ariane. Thank you, Clifford. Thank you, Amy. If I mispronounce your name, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to. Again, we want to make sure you get into the CIP, the Sumo Logic Continuous Intelligence Platform. I need to make sure everyone gets in. Thank you, Jay. Oh, yeah, I apologize. Let me put it up there again for you, Harry. So the password again is logs 2022 with an uppercase L and an exclamation mark. So hopefully everyone that's getting in or trying to get in is able to get in. Let me know if you are unable to get in. Again, I don't want to leave anyone. You're welcome, Harry. All right, another second or so to allow others that are still logging in. All right, Deborah, thank you, Vishal. Okay, so hopefully everyone's in. If not, you'll just throw in the chat you're having problems. Okay, now again, we're just gonna kick the tires, look under the hood, drive the car around the block. I often use that analogy, the car analogy, because we're actually learning something new. With a car, you're typically buying something new. But again, it's a new process, all right? So let's kind of talk about what you see. Now, if you came into your environment, I want you to just watch, and you saw a bunch of tabs, and I'm just simulating this so you can see. If you saw a bunch of tabs at the top, essentially what happened is someone else used that user ID in our training environment. You can easily go up to any one of these tabs that are open and just click on one of them and just click the 3 dots and choose close all tabs, okay? If that happens to you, okay? Now over to the left, you may have came into the environment and you saw the phrase Sumo Logic and you saw a stack of pancakes there. Okay, if you click on that stack of pancakes, that expands our navigation panel. If you click on the arrow to the right of Sumo Logic, it collapses. So again, you have the ability to expand and collapse the navigation panel. With the navigation panel open, expanded, you have 4 folders. The first icon is your recents folder. So things that you recently opened or recently searched for will be in that folder. Your favorites folder, anything that you have favorited will be in this folder. Okay, Thank you, Amy. Glad you're in. And your personal folder. Anytime you save something or you actually consume something, it's going to be stored in your personal folder. Okay. And then lastly, your library. If your administrator shared something with you or someone shared with you, you're going to find it in your library. So again, what we're looking at is our navigation panel. We just identified the 4 folders in the top of our navigation panel. You have the ability to search by going down to the search area, okay? And below the search area, excuse me, is the actual folder listing. And I can go to any folder and click on the asterisk, and that will favorite it. It doesn't move it, it just puts it in that folder, okay? So now in my favorites folder, I see this app. I can clear it by removing the favorites icon, and now it's no longer there, but it never was removed from its original place. You'll notice in our navigation panel down at the bottom, towards the bottom, there's a darker shaded area. We refer to this as our main menu. One of the key points that I want to point out to you in the main menu is we're going to come back here later and take the certification exam. Right now, we're logged in to our training environment, and we're logged in using the training analyst. We don't want our certificate to read, congratulations, training analyst, whatever your number is. You just complete the fundamentals. So my point here is, in order to log out, is you click on that name and then the main menu, and you are able to sign out. And we'll talk about that again once we get to the actual navigation, the actual exam. Naresh, you're having problems logging in. What's your issue, Naresh? I put the actual credentials in there. Make sure you're logging into our training environment. So you're using that URL. Okay, use another number, Naresh. Use another number, 684. Just use any other number. So that's essentially the problem. All right, again, we're just kicking the tires, looking under the hood, driving the car around the block. So far, we've identified the navigation panel. We've identified the main menu. Most importantly, we identified how to sign out, okay? Next, over in the center here, you see 3 tabs. You'll see the house, your home, you'll see your library, and you'll see your alerts, okay? We're gonna spend all of our time on the home tab, okay? So make sure you're on the home tab. Under the home tab, you see 3 links: home, learn, and certification. So when we click on the home tab, home link, we see search capabilities. All these icons allow us to start a search, okay? We also see recently open areas, recommended areas, pinned areas, and recently run searches, okay? So again, this is the home tab, home link. Next, the learn link. Now, out on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, we have a plethora of YouTube videos about Sumo Logic, tons of them. But what we've done here is we've given you a starting point. We've actually given you 5 videos that kind of short micro lessons that kind of help you out. So using Sumo Logic, using your data, using data collection strategies, built-in metadata, again, metadata and keywords. So again, we have these micro lesson videos for you to help you get started, okay? Down below the videos, you'll see our labs that we're going to cover in this class. So you'll see the leftmost, which is our fundamentals. When you come back to take the administration, either with a trainer or a self-sufficient, you'll use administration, okay? And then over to the right of our labs and our administration, you'll see 6 boxes, okay? And I'm going to go through each one of those. All right, Naresh, I need to see what you're typing in if you're still having a problem. What's the user ID you're using? Just put it in chat for me. Again, we're on our home tab and our learn link. We're about to analyze and look at the 6 boxes over to the right. Now, when you come back and take our search mastery course, we get into a lot of log searches, okay? And we use something called operators. If you click on the cheat sheet here, it's going to give you a list of operators, how to use them, and their descriptions. Again, you have all of our operators here. I am closing the tab for our cheat sheet and going back to our CIP. Next to our actual cheat sheet is our documentation, okay? I clicked on the documentation, and this is another place that I often recommend to students to actually go out and explore. In particular, if you go to the start here in documentation, it allows you and leads you to go to, let's say you want to go to our quick start labs and tutorials. So here you can come out here and find out all the other courses for labs and tutorials. So we're doing fundamentals. If you wanted to come back and look at the administration, the labs and tutorials, you could do that. The search mastery, the cloud security and monitoring. Again, we have all of our curriculum starting points here as well. I am closing the actual tab for our documentation and going back to the CIP. It's a good idea to keep track of what's new, what's coming down the line. So again, that's available for you. You can always issue a ticket and ask support. So you can apply a ticket here and ask support. If you're interested in learning more, getting trained, that's going to launch our LMS system. And on our LMS system portal here, you have the ability to see the upcoming courses and you can quickly register. Typically, we offer 2 sessions for our classes, a morning session and an evening session. This is the 2nd session of this course today, okay? Our June classes will be up shortly, so you'll be able to get into those coming up shortly. I am now closing the tab for our Get Trained and going back to the CIP. The last item over to the right here is our community. This is where other Sumo users share and find out information about Sumo Logic. Okay. All right, so that was the home tab and learn link. Okay. Under the home tab, there's the certification. Now, just a few things that I want to point out for you when it comes to the certification. We're going to go through this when it comes to taking the exam, but another reason to go to certification and get certified, clicking on this blue button in the center, get certified, is if you wanted the video and the lab guide and the actual slides, all of that is there. So if you actually go to get certified, and then you click on this here box, recorded live training. If you were to click on that recorded live training, what you're going to see is all of our curriculum here. And as I mentioned, we're taking fundamentals. So if I click on this fundamentals, it'll ask me to register. It's just really a click of a button. And once I register, I'll get the 2-hour video curricula, the actual course video. So the lecture, I'll get that 2-hour lecture. I'll get the actual slides and the actual lab guide. So that's for all of our curriculum out there. Okay, so when you come back and take other courses or what have you, you'll be able to see or click on those items and go and get the videos as well as the labs and those items. So again, I wanted to point that out to you. I am now closing my actual get certified and going back to the CIP. All right, any questions so far? Narish, were you able to get in? All right, let's go ahead. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and get started here. Make sure you're on your home tab and your learn link. Okay, home tab, learn link. And if you scroll down, you'll see where it reads hands-on labs for fundamentals. I am going to lead you through these labs. Okay, let's go ahead and click on lab number 1, viewing our data. Now, just a FYI, if you're in a Google Chrome environment, one of the techniques you can utilize is you can pin your tabs. So I'm going to right click on the tab for my lab guide and go down to pin. The advantage is it allows me to toggle between my CIP and my lab guide. So again, all I did was right click on the tab in my Google Chrome and pin that tab. So now I can toggle between the two. All right, let's get started here. All right, so the first step here, we've already signed in, so we're able to do that, but we want to view our data, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the actual tool and identify if our actual administrator had created the collector and defined the sources. So here's the scenario. You're an analyst. You typically build log searches and find out issues and dashboards and things of that sort. The administrator is the person that is typically the one that defines the collector and the sources. So this is one method of identifying if that collector or those collectors exist. So let's go ahead and do this together. Let's go back to our CIP. Make sure your navigation panel is visible. Let's go down to our main menu, the darker shaded area. And let's click on our manage data link. You'll see now underneath it, it has some sublinks. We're going to go ahead and click on together collections. So this is the area where the administrator would create the collector and define the sources. This is the area where you as an analyst will be able to view and see what's available, okay? Right now, it looks very overwhelming when you get in there. That's because every collector is expanded. So what I typically do, and it's not something that you have to do, but what I typically do, where you see in the center where it reads expand, right now, all are expanded. I click on none. So what that does for me, that collapses all of the collector names, okay? Now, one other technique that I often do just to kind of demonstrate to users is I often search for a collector. So I'm actually searching for a collector that anything that begins with it that has Okta in the name. Okay, and I'll just hit return. So what I returned, or what returned for me, was 2 collector names. If I look at these, one is called Labs Okta. I can see there's green, so that's good. It's healthy. I can see it's a hosted collector. Can any of you remember the other type of collector? There's 2 types. What's the other type? Thank you, Jay. You're quick on the draw. Yep. Dan, you're right. Grace, yep. Janet, yep. You guys are all right. Harry, no, it's hosted or installed. Yeah, okay, yeah, correction. Yes, sir. All right, so again, we're looking at a hosted collector, okay? You could conclude that its sources are all cloud-based, okay? Anyhow, we're looking at a search collector, Labs Okta. I see it's healthy and it's hosted. I see it has 1 source defined underneath it. I see in the last hour, there was some activity. I see that that it has ingested over 16,000 messages within the last hour, okay? I can expand this collector and see the 1 source that has been defined. So this particular collector is passing over my Okta logs. Okay, I'm going to collapse that one and look at one that has more. So here I'm looking at lab sec demo. It's healthy, it's hosted as well, but notice it has 5 sources defined underneath it. It has had some activity in the last hour, I can see that, and it has ingested over 26,000 messages. If I were to expand this collector, I can see that, oh, it's bringing over the CloudTrail logs, the guard duty, my S3 buckets, and so forth and so on. So here's the 5 sources that were defined. Here's the actual activity and the messages. Now, what you also may notice is the add collector is grayed out. That's because your analyst role is not the role that typically creates collectors. It's typically the admin role. Okay, and again, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can come back and take the admin course with us. We'd be glad to have you. All right, let's go ahead and toggle back to our lab. So we looked and saw what data was available. Again, all you were doing is actually seeing the collectors, knowing how to read them, etc. Let's scroll down in our actual lab and get down to number 4. Okay, under number 4, there's a search query there. Go ahead and highlight and copy that search query. It reads asterisk pipe count by underscore source category. Let's go ahead and copy that. Let's go back to our CIP. Now we can close this collection tab. We're done with it. So just go up to the tab and click the X. Okay. I try to keep a clean dashboard panel, so it's not mandatory, but I kind of keep a clean desktop, so to speak. All right, now we have something in memory that we want to create. Let's go ahead where it reads new, the new button. Let's click on that new blue button there. And it gives us several choices. We want to go and do a log search. So a new log search. Okay. And here, in case this ever appears on the exam, when you create a new log search, it defaults to the last 15 minutes. So by default, it's going to have the last 15 minutes. Okay. Let's go ahead and paste in our log, our actual query, and let's sort of break it down so we get an understanding of what's going on. Now, if some of you are familiar with SQL, SQL, if some of you are familiar with SQL, you know how they use wildcards. In this tool, we have similarities to SQL. So we're using a wildcard here, okay? And essentially what we're saying here is count all of my source categories and all of the messages. So I want everything from my source categories over the last 15 minutes. We're using a pipe as a continuation of our expression, okay? So when we run this by clicking on the blue magnifying glass to the right of our actual time, you'll see we have our, what you have is a histogram, okay, minute by minute, and that histogram can be hidden by clicking the hide link or the show link over to the right. Underneath the histogram, you see its status is done, the elapsed time, and the results. We have over 890,000 messages that we've ingested, okay? We see our messages, our original messages, all 890,000 of them. We're looking at page 1 of 35,000 pages. Now we have an aggregates tab because we use the count operator. So any aggregate that you put in your actual expressions is going to automatically generate an aggregates tab. So count, min, max, average, all of those are going to generate an aggregates tab. So what we're seeing here is our source categories and the total count of messages coming from there. So of these 890,000 messages, 353 of them are coming from my request logs. Now, your numbers may not be exactly like mine. That's not the important thing here. Again, it's just understanding how to utilize these queries and what they represent. Okay, so again, all we did here was we used the query to count up all of our items. Now, here's a tip, a few tips in case these appear on your exams. On your messages tab, to export out these messages, you go to the gear symbol and you choose export out, in case that ever appears on the exam. Okay, so on the messages tab, you go to the gear symbol to export out. On the aggregates tab, the first icon allows you to export out your results. Okay, now also something else. On the messages tab, as I mentioned, we're looking at page 1 of 35,000. Page 1 has 25 items. So this tool is displaying 25 items per page. If you ever wanted to change that, you would go to the gear symbol on the messages tab and go to the display message preferences. And there you can change the amount of items you're seeing. Okay. So again, we issued that query. We see all of the actual messages coming from, the total messages coming from each source category. All right, let's go back to our lab guide. All right, now, we're about to go over 2 scenarios now. We're going to find something or find an actual dashboard that someone shared with us. Okay, so someone in the company shared a dashboard and we're going to find it and we're going to consume it and look at it. Then we're going to look at a different approach. We're actually going to download from Sumo Logic's app catalog and download an actual app. So that's the next 2 scenarios, okay? So if you're following along in the lab guide, I'm actually on find and display shared dashboards. We're going to go back to our CIP and go back to our library, okay? So click on the 4th tab over here. This is your library tab. Each one of these tabs, if you hover over it, it has bubble help. Now, in case this appears on your exam, the search area is case insensitive. We're going to search for Apache access. And I'm just being, difficult here. I'm just showing you mixed case. Again, it's case insensitive. You should now see under your library folder, after you've searched for Apache access, a folder that someone shared with us. It's called Apache access. Let's click on that folder to expand it. In that folder, you'll see that there's a purplish item. It reads Apache overview. That color represents the dashboard. So let's click on that Apache overview dashboard. Okay, if you see any pop-up menus, you can go ahead and close them out. You don't have to take any tours. So this Apache overview dashboard was shared with us by someone within the company. Okay, on this dashboard, we can see our web server information where users are logging in from. We can see our actual status codes by server, our critical error messages. So we have some dashboard panels on here. What we don't know if someone that shared it with us, maybe they filtered maybe the queries were filtered, or maybe they have date ranges. So we don't know. It's not pristine, but they shared it with us. So that's good. We were able to consume it. No big deal there. Okay. Going back to our actual lab guide. Now, we're about to install an app and view the content. Now, I want to kind of emphasize this next paragraph. If that dashboard doesn't show the type of information we're looking for, or if the actual library search didn't find anything useful, it's a good idea to install the Apache Access app. Well, what's the Apache Access app, Odell? Sumo Logic apps deliver out-of-the-box dashboards, out-of-the-box save searches, and out-of-the-box field extractions, okay? They're the best way to start exploring new data sources on your own. So again, it's important that you be aware of that. We give you starting points, okay? What we're about to do now is go ahead and go to our app catalog and download the most pristine version of Apache Access. But while you're here in your actual lab guide, if you could scroll down to number 4 for me and go ahead and highlight the bolded web server underscore system equals Apache. Now the sentence has a period at the end of it. Don't capture the period. It'll give you an error. We just want you to capture web server underscore system equals Apache. Okay. Now once you capture that, let's go ahead and go back to our CIP. You can close all tabs. Well, how do you close all tabs at once, Odell? You go to any one of those tabs, click on the more, which is the 3 dot, and you close all tabs. Okay. All right, so what we're about to do is we're about to consume an actual app. So in your navigation panel, go down to the main menu, the darker shaded area, okay? And just a few features here. If you click on something, it'll stay expanded until you click on it again, okay? So if I click on manage data, it'll stay expanded until I click on it again to collapse. Anyhow, we want to click on in our main menu, the app catalog, okay? In the app catalog, notice you can go by category. You can filter down by category. We are going to go ahead and type in Apache. And again, in case this ever appears on exam, the actual search area is case insensitive. Okay. We search for Apache and we see the Apache with the feather. That's the one that we want, the one with the feather. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now let's take note of what it's saying. In the overview, it says, hey, this Apache app is unified logs and metric app that helps you monitor the availability, the performance, the health, and the resource utilization of your Apache Access web farm. This is perfect. That's exactly what we need. We have Apache and we need to monitor our system. They have an app that has log searches and dashboards already created for us. Let's use it, okay? Also here, while we're here, you have the ability to scroll through by using the arrows on the right or left and look at some of the dashboards that are going to be displayed. Okay. Anyhow, let's continue on. We found our Apache. Let's click on the phrase add integration. Okay. We're in a wizard mode. It's asking us about an Apache log source. Right now, we're saying our log source is a source category. We're going to click on the drop down arrow to the right of that source category, and we're going to choose enter a custom data filter. So we're going to filter for our logs. Okay, so we choose that phrase. Over to the right, we're going to paste, or you can type in web server underscore system equals Apache. So again, you have to make sure that your actual options are set correctly. Otherwise, when we run this later, you won't get any data. So make sure everything is set to where you see it on the screen there. All right, then over in the right-hand side, you can go ahead and click next. Again, it'll eventually give you a pop-up and say voila or success. You can then click exit and close the tab. Well, Dale, we created something, but I don't know where to find it. Remember, whenever you create or save something, go to your personal folder. So you should now see in your personal folder an Apache folder with an Apache overview dashboard. And this one looks a little different, just a little bit than the original one we consumed that someone shared with us. Okay, again, it has multiple panels on it. We can see our uptime, our requests per seconds, and we still see our URLs as well. So again, what we've just done was we've ingested, or we've actually went to our app catalog, app store, and downloaded an actual app. Let's go back to our actual steps here. All right, lastly here, let's share this item that we just downloaded. Okay, so going back to the CIP, make sure you're on your personal folder tab. Go to the Apache folder. You don't have to close it or collapse it. You can just go all the way over to the right on the 3 dots where it reads Apache. That's our more, and click on those 3 dots and go down to the phrase share. Okay. Now you're able to share with, by clicking in the area where it reads share this content. If you click there, you'll see a drop down. You can share with users, groups, and roles. Okay. So you and I, we're going to share with the entire organization. So we'll just choose that very first choice, your entire organization. Now, when you click it, it often drops down and allows you to choose another one. You can just click in the white space to collapse that, okay? Now, in case this ever appears on an exam, the share capabilities under access are view, edit, and manage. There's no read and there's no delete. So when we share something, we can allow them to view it, we can allow them to edit it, or we can allow them to manage it, but there's no actual reading or deleting, okay? And then we click share. And then those that would like to find it, they would go to the library and look for that item. All right, going back to our lab guides, congratulations. You've completed these tasks in part 1. You've signed in the Sumo Logic. You search for source categories to see what data is available. You search for and view a dashboard that's been shared by someone in our organization, and you installed an app, shared it with others, and opened it and included what was included. Okay. All right, so I've been talking for a little while. Let's go ahead and take our 5-minute break. Breathe, stretch, exhale, get away from the monitor for a minute. I'll put up the timer and I'll see you in 5. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you got an opportunity to take a quick break there. Let's get back into our lecture. Excuse me, let's get back to our labs. We had just completed lab number 1. Within our lab guide, you have the ability to go to the next lab. So let's go ahead and go to lab number 2 together. Let's click on lab number 2. Search for log data. All right, so what we want to do here is we want to search our Apache access logs, and we want to search and use a keyword. We want all of our log messages that have the word get. So under the create query in our lab 2, under step 2, go ahead and highlight that query under step 2. Let's highlight that query and copy it to memory. And let's go back to our CIP. You can close any tabs that you have open just to kind of keep a clean sort of desktop. And let's go ahead and create a new log search, a new log search. And I think we're going to run this for 60 minutes. Yep. Okay. So let's all right, let me go over a few things with you. Okay. When you place your cursor in the log search area, you'll notice that you start to see a bunch of metadata tags. So the tool allows you to just click through if you wanted to, and I'm just demonstrating here. So I can just click through and go source category, and let's say I wanted my labs, and go to Apache. Oops, pardon me, wrong way. Labs, Apache, and I can just click. So I have that type ahead capability. I just wanted to demonstrate that to you. Anyhow, let's go ahead and paste in our query. Let's talk about what this query is doing. It's using that preferred metadata tag underscore source category. It's equating it to our access logs. It's using an optional operator. This and operator is implied. So it's not really necessary, but again, just to kind of make sure when you type something, other users get a chance to view it, they kind of understand what's going on. So we're telling the tool, bring back all of our access messages that have the get, okay? All of our get messages, okay? Now, let's talk about the time for a second over here to the right. As a default, every time you add a log search, its time is going to be the last 15 minutes. If you click that last 15 minutes, it gives you other choices. So you see a set of relative times that you can choose from. If you've never been in the actual tool, you'll see a recent tab and it won't be anything in it because you haven't recently done anything. Okay, but these are the recent items I've been through. And then I have the ability to customize it by going through a date and time period. So what I'm doing right now, ladies and gentlemen, is clicking on the time to kind of review the different time periods, okay? And if we click on relative time, one of the things that we might notice is, well, what if I wanted 32 minutes or 18 minutes or 5 minutes? I don't see that in my recents or any of those. So how do I build that, Odell? And I'm just demonstrating, ladies and gentlemen, how you would actually build anytime you want. So first of all, in the time area, you highlight what's ever there and you type in a minus symbol. I'm demonstrating. You don't necessarily need to do this. You type in a minus symbol and you type in your time period. So if I wanted to last 4 minutes, I use M for minutes. I use H for hours or D for days. If I do 40 minutes, I can see M for minutes, H for hour, and D for days. So again, you're just going to type in that if you want to type in a time that doesn't exist. Okay. Anyhow, stop digressing. I'm choosing 60 minutes. So each of us should have a relative time of last 60 minutes. We're using a source category and we're going to run this query. So let's go ahead and click on the blue run button. So of course, we're going to get our histogram. Okay. Underneath our histogram, we get our status. It's done, the elapsed time, and the total results. So this message is bringing back all of our get messages. There's 30,000 of these messages that have get in them, okay? I'm seeing in my field browser, my messages, I see my field browser, it's going to display time and message. Now these other hidden fields, you might have heard me talk about during the introduction, the benefit of downloading apps that I talked about, field extractions. So these fields here were automatically extracted during ingestion time. So you can set up a field extraction rule. Your administrator can do that, okay? I'm going to digress for a moment and quickly show you that. Just watch. So I'm going over to the manage data, the logs. I'm in my main menu of my navigational panel, and I'm demonstrating some field extraction rules, okay? So if I go over to the field, I went to my logs, and I see multiple tabs up here. You learn more about this in the admin class, ladies and gentlemen. I keep talking about field extraction, so I'm going to go ahead and address it. So if I click on that field extraction rule tab, and let's say I go down to, so I should have one here. So, all right, here's one. All right. So this rule is enabled. It's applied at ingestion time. It's going to be applied to Labs Apache Access. Okay. what is it going to do? It's going to parse out fields. So I'll see in my field browser these fields automatically. Now, what's the benefit of that? Well, performance. If I'm extracting the fields out during ingestion, then my analyst doesn't have to do parsing. Again, I just quickly showed you that just to kind of demonstrate at a high level. You can learn more about that in our admin class. All right, so again, I was talking about these fields and how they got there. They're based off of field extraction rules, okay? Now, let's continue on. We see that we have page 1 of over 1,000 pages. So we have over 1,000 pages of get messages. We can see our gets are all highlighted. And let me go ahead and do this for you just so I can prove to you that if I don't use that and, the query will still work. I just want to kind of show you that in case that ever comes up on an exam about the and being implied. And notice I still get my get messages highlighted. The numbers are different, but again, that's because we're ingesting messages all the time. But anyhow, I get the same thing, okay? I'll put the and back just so mine looks like yours. All right, let's continue on here. The next step in our lab is to actually create a parse statement, okay? So let's go back to our labs, scroll down here. I'm in the parse the message portion. Parsing makes search results easier to scan and interpret, okay? So we're going to parse our log messages for our URL, our status code, our size, and our refer, okay? So we're gonna parse these items out, okay? Now, I want you to watch me first and then do. So I'm going back to the CIP here. That first message, let's first talk about there's different types of parse anchors. I want you to just watch, don't do. I tell students, this tool is, it's a software company. It's a lot of information. I don't know everything, but I do have a resource. It's called help.sumologic.com. You're just watching now, okay? I want you to be aware of this resource when you take the exam as well, okay? So if I want to know about parse operators, we are about to parse something out, but there's different types of parsings. Okay, I click on parse operators, it opens up. I see there's a parse anchor, parse regex, JSON, key value, CSV, XML. So there's different types of parsing. That's all I wanted to demonstrate to you. Okay, now we are going to use a parse anchor because all of these messages are formatted the same. If they weren't formatted the same, I would use a parse regex. Okay, I'm about to do a parse anchor. If I look at this get message, the double quotes to the left of it is not going to change. So that's going to be my anchor. I'm going to hold my mouse and drag it over all the way to the end of the quote. Okay, so what I'm doing is after the get message, excuse me, I'm highlighting the quote and everything, the get and everything after it, all the way to the ending quote. So make sure you have a URL, a status code, an actual size, and the referring URL. That's what should be highlighted, just like I have. You may not have the exact same message, but you should be able to do the exact same thing. Now, students often ask once we do this, can I edit the parse? No, it's position based. So if you tinker with that that edit, it's not going to work correctly. The best thing to do is to do the actual parse over. Okay. So again, making sure everyone has the same thing I have. It's highlighted. Go ahead and right click on that highlight. You get a set of choices. We're going to choose parse selected text. Okay, we get a new pop-up screen here. All right, we want to parse out these fields and give them field names. So after that get, I'm highlighting that backslash and everything in it. So that's my URL. So if you notice how mine is, I don't have any quotes in focus. I just highlight by left mouse dragging, okay? Once I let the left mouse go, I get this yellow phrase. Click to extract this value. So I go ahead and you go ahead and we go ahead and click on this yellow, click to extract value. It replaces what we have highlighted with an asterisk. So we're going to give that replacement a field name. We'll call it URL, and we'll add a comma after it. Odell, what are we doing? Well, we use the parse anchor to parse out fields to make our results easier to read, okay? Now, the next value after our asterisk, we're gonna highlight. The next value, that next number after the asterisk, you're gonna highlight. Again, it reads, click to extract this value. We click to extract that, and we replace that with the phrase status underscore code. We don't use spaces here, we use underscores. Yeah, Amy, you can highlight all of that. The example here is just so you can understand parsing. So you can highlight all of that, the HTTP as well. All right, so make sure you add a comma. Right now you parsed out URL and status code and you added a comma. The next value after that asterisk, you're gonna highlight. Again, it reads a yellow phrase, click to extract this value. It replaces it with an asterisk, and we're gonna call that size and add a comma. Then lastly, I have this HTTP, that's the referring website. I'm not highlighting any quotes, just the actual value between the quotes. I'll click on the phrase, click to extract this value. It replaces it, and I'll call this refer. Odell, I have no idea what refer means. Do we have to use these field names? No, it's not mandatory. There's nothing magical to those names other than we're using something literal that people can understand. You could have used A, B, C, D, but again, someone would then ask you, what does A represent? What does B? So again, we use some logical names here. All right, let's go ahead and click the submit button. Now, one of the first things that you notice is your query changed. It reads underscore source category equals labs, Apache access, and get. Then it's piping to continue the message, parse, get. We're replacing what's after the get with URL, what's after that with status code, what's after that size, and refer, okay? Just in case. If you didn't get it, you can always copy this out of the actual lab guide. I'll put it in the chat as well. But again, editing it will not work because it's position based. Anyhow, let's go ahead and run that query, and you'll see the advantages or some advantages of that actual parsing. So we'll see the elapsed time, it's done. We see our results. What we'll notice immediately in our messages tab is no longer is just time and message being displayed. Those 4 new fields, refer, size, status code, and URL, are now being displayed as well. So I can go over to my message and see the referring website. I can see the size, the status code, as well as the URL, the referring URL. So that'll help us the actual initiating URL. That'll help us if we needed to query and find out specific codes or anything like that. Now, let me digress and kind of show you some other features and things that you'll learn in the actual Search Mastery course. Right now, I'm just looking at source category. If I click on this search category, not the checkbox, just click on the name, I can see that it gives me a percentage and the total amount of results. If I did the same thing in my status codes up top in the display fields, it'll give me a breakdown of all my status codes and those actual percentage. So I have over 75% of 200s, okay? So again, I'm just showing you just some other features that you're able to utilize here. All right, let's go back to our lab guide. So we parsed out everything, awesome. We ran it, perfect. Now let's save this search. We're gonna call it Apache status codes with our initials. So again, up in the search area over to the right, you can either click on the icon save as, or you can click on the three dots, the more, and choose save as. And we're gonna give it a name. So we'll call it Apache status codes and we'll give it our initial. Okay. And you guys already know where you're gonna find this once we save it. Put my initials here, and you can optionally put a description, and we're just gonna click save. Again, you know you can go into your personal folder and you can see that newly saved search title. Okay. All right. Pat yourselves on the back. You've completed part 2. You created a search query. You parsed the message so that they were easy to scan and interpret, and you saved the search. Okay, let's continue on. Let's go on to lab 3, charting our data. Charting our data, okay? Now we're gonna use some aggregation statements, okay? Like the count, the min, the max, all right? Now be aware, in order to create a visualization, and this is very important, only search results that have been aggregated using a group or an aggregation operator can be charted. So in other words, you won't be able to chart anything, any of your results, unless you add an aggregation or you group it, okay? Let's go ahead and let's highlight under number 1 where it reads aggregate your results. Let's highlight number 1, that pipe count by status code. Highlight and copy that. Now let's talk about some features of the tool. Some of you may have done this already. You wanted to add another blank line and you hit the enter key, and you learned right away hitting the enter key only reruns the log search. In order to add a new blank line on your Macs, you use Shift Return. So place your cursor at the end of the refer, hit Shift Return. On your Windows, you can use Alt Enter, okay? But again, the key thing, however you do it, you want to add a new line and you're pasting, okay? And let's talk about and read what this actual statement is doing. It's using the pipe to continue the expression. It's using the count by operator, and it's counting by the status code, okay? Let's go ahead and run that. That count by is going to automatically initiate an aggregates tab. So I can see my status codes and their total counts of messages. Remember what I just showed you. We could have went to our messages tab, clicked on the name status code, and saw the same breakdown as well, okay? But again, that aggregates tab gives you the count by status code. The only way you'll be able to see the actual chart types is to have an aggregates tab. All right. So we did all of that. Awesome, awesome. Now we're in the we're under the topic where it reads time slice. We want to create buckets, okay? And we create time slice buckets by using the time slice operator. Let's go ahead and highlight under number 1 where it reads pipe time slice. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, let's make it easier for ourselves. Let's go to under number 2, and let's highlight the last 2 lines. Highlight and copy the last 2 lines. So there's our original query. We're going to replace that count by with those last 2 lines. So I'm going to right click and copy. Go back to my CIP, highlight that last line, count by status code. I'll highlight that and I'll paste over my time slice and my count by. And let's kind of read this through, okay? So again, we're going against our Access Labs, getting all of our get messages. We're parsing out these field names. We're rendering our results in 1-minute buckets. We're using the time slice operator. We want to count by, and if you take a look at this time slice, this is the placeholder time slice because our operator, you see it's in a different color, we use a placeholder to utilize the count by. So we're counting by our time slice and our status codes. Let's run that by clicking on the blue magnifying glass. And again, we get an aggregates tab and we see our time slice and our status codes and our counts. Okay. Now be aware that these time slices are not in any order. We could add an order by statement if we wanted to. We could also click the column header for time and put them in descending or ascending order. Okay. All right. Now, this list is good. This list of numbers is great. It's what we wanted. However, we also would like to do some comparisons, do some analysis, identify some trends. It's difficult to accomplish those 3 goals with a list. It would be nice if we could kind of change this list into an Excel-like display where we have columns and rows. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our lab guide. And we're under the topic transpose results. And under number 1, let's just go ahead and highlight that transpose statement and copy that. Let's copy that transpose statement. Let's go back to our CIP. And let's place our cursor at the end of the last row. So at the end of that count by, let's place our cursor there. We want to add another blank line. So I'm using my Shift Return on my Mac. You can use Alt Enter in a lot of cases as well. Okay. Let's paste that statement and let's read it. It says, hey, Odell. Now yours might not read hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, I want my time slice. Notice it's using the underscore because that's placeholder. I want my time slice on my rows. I want my status code on my columns. That's the transpose operator, okay? So when we run this, by clicking on the blue magnifying glass, voila, we're able to do comparisons, identify trends, because we have our time on our rows and our status codes on our columns. Now be aware also that that transpose operator, there are some operators that will automatically sort. So that transpose operator is one of those operators that's going to automatically sort for you. Okay. All right, very good. Let's go back. Next. From here, Sumo can create something even easier to read. That transpose allows us to see the numbers very well in detail. But now we can go ahead and create a visualization by making a chart. Okay. Now, going back to our CIP, again, we have an aggregates tab, so we'll be able to see our chart options. So this third icon there is your bar chart, your column chart, line chart, and so forth. You have a pie chart as well. So if we go ahead and click on our column chart, we now see our actual data in a chart fashion. But hey, Odell, I want to see the numbers. The chart is great, but I'd rather see the numbers. This very first icon takes you back to the table of your values. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and just leave it as a column chart. Just wanted to show you that. Now, just like I talked about in the actual demo of monitoring and troubleshooting, our actual legends are interactive. So over here to the right, I can see these a lot of these are 200. A lot of these lines here are 200. So I can go over to my legend and turn it off just by clicking it. Now I'm seeing a lot of my 304s. So I can go over here and turn off my 304s. My legends are interactive. Now, that's great. If I'm doing demos, that's great. I can, demonstrate toggling on and off these objects. But I'd rather put this in my code and get rid of those objects for good. Okay, so let's go back to our lab guide. And again, we're going to scroll down till we get to the area where it says number 1 again, and there's a where clause. And just be aware, just like you learn in that in SQL, there's an exclamation mark. That exclamation point is used as a not. So the statement means where status code is not 200 or not 304. So go ahead and copy that statement under number 1 there. Now this needs to be placed in a particular location. Okay, we need to place this where after our parse statement. So place your cursor at the end of the parse statement and go ahead and add a new blank line, a new blank row. And go ahead and paste in that where. And again, we need to put this, I'm going to show you later, there's a method to our syntax. So we're saying where with the exclamation mark, not status code not equal 200 and not equal 304. Let's run that again. And bada boom, bada bing. We look at our legend and we see we no longer have 200s or 304s. Okay, so those are just examples of going over some of the operators. Let's go back to our lab guide. Wow, you are making excellent progress. You've aggregated your results. You use the transpose operator to make the results easier to read. You've created a chart of the results and you've adjusted the chart legend. Okay, let's go on to our lab number 4, creating and sharing a dashboard. All right, now we come to the point where we want to use that powerful forensic tool, a dashboard, the visualizations. Okay, again, we're going to create a dashboard and we're going to call that dashboard Apache status code with our initials. Okay, so let's go back to our CIP. You're on your aggregates tab. If you look all the way over to the right of your aggregates tab, you'll see the phrase add to dashboard. Now, let me digress for a moment. If you recall, when I was doing the demonstration, I opened up from my actual Slack an overview dashboard. And one of the things that I mentioned was that each one of those dashboard panels has an underlying query. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're creating a query and we're adding the panel to a dashboard. So you're seeing sort of the reverse engineering of it, but the key point is you start out with a query, then you can add it to your the panel to your dashboard, and that's what we're about to do. So let's click on the add to dashboard. It's going to prompt us. It took the panel title from the name of your query. And I'm just going to add a little bit more to mine. You don't need to do this. I'm just going to do this for mine because I create quite a few of those. And let's just put a 17 there. Oops. Didn't like that. All right. So, all right, now, so you don't have to change your name. I just did that because I have quite a few, but I do want you to click in the dashboard area. And I want you to notice what it's doing. It's actually going and finding all the dashboards that have been created. And what this screen is actually allowing you to do is to add that Apache status codes panel to any existing dashboard. Now we could do that if we wanted to. We could add this panel to an existing dashboard, but we don't want to do that. We want to create our own dashboard. So let's go ahead and type in where it reads dashboard Apache status codes. And let's put our initials. You'll notice as you start typing, it'll eventually get down to a unique item where it reads, hey, you're going to create this item. And that's fine. That's what we want to do. So again, hopefully yours is looking similar to mine, where you have your title, your panel title, and your dashboard title, and it now reads create new. We need to have create new. Okay. Now, once you create new, it comes to another window. On this window, make sure you do this now. We want to flip this gear off. We don't want to create it in the new UI. Some of the questions that we have for our exam are dealing with the older UI. So we switch that off. So again, if you don't switch this off, you're going to get an error. Hopefully you switched it off. If you had any problems, the best way to do this over is to start from the actual search, go to the aggregates tab, and then add it to the dashboard again. Okay. All right, so we can go ahead and click add. You should be able to find this item. It opens it up, your dashboard. It opens right to your dashboard. Okay, you should see what it reads. You'll notice that you're in an edit mode. How do you know that? Because the blue done editing box you're in that mode right now. If I were to click that box, I'm out of the edit mode. To get back in edit mode, I click on the pencil. Okay, make sure you're in the edit mode. So here's our dashboard. Here's our panel, which was created from that underlying query. Okay, let's do some other things while we're here on this dashboard. Let's go to those three dots in the top right corner of our dashboard. That's our more, and let's click on that. Let's go ahead and click add panel. We're going to add a descriptive panel. It has two radio buttons, one for title and one for text. So we can just call this our Apache status codes. And then we can click the radio button for text and type in this panel displays status codes, okay, or whatever, okay? Again, we're just demonstrating how you can add items to your dashboards. So we're done. Let's go ahead and click submit. We're still in the edit mode. Other features that we can do, I can left mouse hold and drag. Left mouse hold and drag. So I'm able to rearrange. I can go to the corner hash marks and resize. So again, you have that capability of resizing, rearranging your dashboard items. One other feature you have, if we go back to our three dots, the more, we can change from a lighter theme by clicking the toggle theme and go to a darker theme. Okay, so again, you have the ability to toggle your themes. Remember that this dashboard you created is now over in your personal folder. So here's the actual dashboard. All right, very good. Now, that last thing we'll do here is, let's go ahead and share our dashboard. So again, you can either go to where your dashboard is saved in your personal folder, or if you're still in the dashboard, you can go up to the actual share icon. Okay, it's the same screen we've seen before when we shared before. We click in that area where it reads share this content. It gives us a list. Okay, I could share it. Let's see if they put me in here yet. Yep, I could share it with myself if I wanted to. But again, we're going to go ahead and share it with our entire organization. And we'll just go ahead and click share. We can also click done editing. All right. Good job. You've completed task 4. You created a panel from your search and you added that to a new dashboard. You added a text panel. You changed the look and feel of your dashboard, and you shared the dashboard with others in our organization. Awesome. Let's go ahead and go to lab number 5. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Hang in there with me. Lab number 5, modifying a dashboard. Okay. Remember we had went to the app catalog and we downloaded the Apache Access dashboard. We're now going to demonstrate how you can update or change those panels. So in this lab, in our lab steps, I want you to scroll down till you get to step number 3. Go ahead and highlight that expression under step number 3 and copy it. The pipe where country name equals United States. So let's go ahead and highlight and copy under number 3 in lab number 5. Let's copy that. Let's go back to our CIP. We can close this tab of the dashboard we just created. We can close any tabs we have open. We don't necessarily need any tabs open. Remember, you can always go to your personal folder and get that item again. All right, speaking of our personal folder, make sure you're on your personal folder in your navigation panel. You should see your Apache folder there. Go ahead and expand your Apache folder under your personal folder. Go ahead and click on the Apache Overview dashboard. Now, this dashboard is a clean dashboard. It actually doesn't have any editing done to it. We consumed it fresh. What we want to focus on is one particular panel. Go look for your visitors location panel. And what this is showing us, it's a geo map of where people are logging in from. So we can zoom in by double clicking or scrolling our mouse. We can see that people are logging in from we're getting logins from all over the world. Okay. What you and I want to do is we want to go up to the 3 dots to the right of the visitor location. Go up to the 3 dots, the more. And we're going to choose edit. Okay, we're choosing edit because we don't need to open up a log search. We just want to edit the underlying query. So notice here's the query and here's our actual chart. We've already copied the where to memory. Now it's in particular that we put the where in a particular location. We need to put it after the lookup statement because the lookup statement is returning our country code. So place your cursor at the end of the lookup statement. It should be to the right of something called src_IP. That's your source IP, okay? So place your cursor there and add a new blank row. Shift return or Alt enter. And go ahead and paste in that where clause. So it's saying where country equals United States. Now we're going to click on the blue magnifying glass, the blue magnifying box. So that's going to run our query, and we'll notice that now we're only seeing our items that come from the United States. Okay. We updated the query by changing the query expression. Now we need to update the dashboard. So above running the query, there's an update dashboard box. Let's click on that. And now our dashboard is only displaying the United States as well. Okay. All right. So now that you have all that done, let's get on to the last lab. Lab number 6, the last lab. You guys made it. Good job. Let's click on create an alert. We're going to create an alert and we're going to use the same dashboard panel. So let's go back to our CIP. You're still looking at the Apache overview dashboard. You've already located the the visitors location panel. This time, when we go to the 3 dots, the more, we're going to open in the search. So that's going to open in the search log. We need to do this in order to create an alert. Okay. Now let's go over up into our search area. You can either click on the icon, save as, or you can go to the 3 dots and click on the save as. Whichever you're comfortable with, just click on save as. In order for us to create an actual alert, we have to go down to the phrase schedule this search. So go ahead and click on that phrase, schedule this search. Right now, the search is not scheduled. It reads never. Once we change that by clicking the drop down arrow, it goes from never, and we can choose any one of these times. We have a bunch of them. I'll just choose every 15 minutes. Okay. It now gives us a bunch of other choices. So I can change the time range for 60 minutes. So I want to run this every 50 minutes for the last 60 minutes. Excuse me, every 15 minutes for the last 60 minutes. I also have different alert mechanisms. I can get alerted by email, by a script, by CSC signal, or maybe I need to create a webhook to go to go to Slack or something along that. Now, ServiceNow, we're going to leave it as an email, just demonstrating you have multiple alert types. Let's continue to scroll down. Let's go ahead and flip the switch for results to CSV. We're going to add that as well. We can add a recipients. Again, you're in our training environment. And then one last task. We're going to go back to our lab steps and go down to number 6H. Number 6H. It has some variables that are in brackets. We want to highlight the brackets and the variables and copy those. Again, we're going to use some variables for our email subject. So we'll copy that and go back to our CIP. And right where it reads the email subject, you're going to highlight what's ever there and replace it by pasting what you have in memory. Once you place your cursor there, you get a little flyout window. So the search name is going to return the actual name of our results. It's going to give the actual time that it actually was ran and the number of results. Okay, just to kind of recap what we've done here, we wanted to create an alert. We went to our save and went to our edit schedule, and then we changed the actual frequency, the range, the alert type, the recipient, And we also added an email subject with fire item with variables, and we turned on our results. Okay, and we save. Then that, of course, would run. Okay. Now, what you and I are going to also do is learn how to turn that schedule off. So you can either go back to the three dots and choose edit, but let's say you're not in that tab. Well, you can go to your personal folder and go to the actual item and go to the three dots and choose edit. Then you're going to go to the phrase edit search schedule and change the run frequency from whatever you have it to never. And once you change that to never, it is considered to be disabled or turned off. Make sure you update it. All right, going back. So we completed all of that. Lab 7, ladies and gentlemen, is really a reference lab for you all. Okay, so here, lab 7 here, you can check our release notes, search our documentation hub, visit our learn page. You can go post out on our Sumo Logic community, post on our, try our customer Slack channel, or you can contact support. Again, I'll leave this as a reference page. There's a few more things I want to talk about in the slide, so let me quickly go there. All right, so one of the reasons that we parsed, okay, was to ensure that we were able to read our results. But there's a method to our query, our creation, our syntax. So the method is you want to make sure you get your metadata. So we use a metadata tag to bring back our actual logs. You can optionally use a keyword. It's not mandatory, but it does help, helps filter down, okay? Then we're going to parse, okay? Then you're going to filter out, aggregate, and then format. That's the syntax. The reason the syntax is important is to allow you to narrow your search scope by using metadata and keywords, by using the different types of parse. Remember, we used the parse anchor because the messages were all formatted the same. If they weren't formatted, we use a regex, and there's other types of parse, okay? Then there's filtering, aggregation, and formatting, okay? Now let's go to a few other slides. All right, now, I also talked about that advanced analytics. In my demonstration, I was able to use the log reduce. That log reduce looked for patterns and kind of put all the patterns together and allow me to find any anomalies, that needle in the haystack. Another advanced analytic is that log compare. The log compare will compare your today's logs to a prior time in history, maybe yesterday at the same time, maybe last week at the same time. So again, that log compare is also an advanced analytic for you as well. Live tails. A live tail is the type of search that allows you to see the messages as they're being ingested. This is typically done by an admin, okay? Also be aware, if you are an admin, there's a governor that we have set. You can only run 10 concurrent live tails at once. So once you hit the 11th person tries to do a live tail, it's going to give them a message. It exceeded it or reached that, okay? Again, this is typically done by an administrator. All right, wrapping things up here. Questions? All right, so if there aren't any questions, it's time to take the exam, okay? Again, we would encourage you to take the exam now while it's fresh in your mind and you have resources available. Although those resources, slides, labs, documentation will always be available, again, you have those resources available. It's 30 questions, 60 minutes, 75% to pass. Okay, I'll be here for the entire 60 minutes once I get through with giving you a few more pieces of information. So how do you take the exam? Okay, so the first thing you need to be aware, as I mentioned before, is you're in our training environment. You don't want to take the exam in our training environment. You want to take the exam in your company's environment. So you want to first log out of our training environment. In order to do that, you go to the navigation panel, down to the main menu, click on your username and sign out. Okay. Then you're going to go ahead and log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, just as I'm doing. Okay. You're watching. I'm trying to get you set up. Okay. Once you log into your company's Sumo Logic environment, you're going to go to the Home tab and the certification link. So the Home tab and the certification link. Once you click on the certification link, you'll go to the Get Certified choice. Takes you to our Skill Jar app. Once you come to the Skill Jar app, you're going to go ahead and click on Get Certified Again. You'll see a big block there that says Get Certified Again. Okay. All right. And then we've just taken the fundamentals. So you would click on the fundamentals. Again, you would register real quickly. And you'll go ahead and start the assessment. Now I want you to see what goes on. So true or false, once an app is installed from the app catalog, it can be shared like dashboards and queries. It can, so that's true. So you're gonna go through these. Now, if you do have this question, you got this one right. We have 1,000 questions in our exam bank. So again, I don't know what you're gonna get, but you're gonna go through and do all 30 questions. And here's the key. You're gonna go down there and click next. And here's the key. Before you submit, you can see the actual results. So you can see what you got wrong. It's not going to give you the answer, but you can make a mental note of what you got wrong. And you see you got one right if you followed me. Now you would click submit. Let's say you got them all wrong. You could take the test again right away. But the key thing is you submit here. If you don't submit, it's not going to allow you to take it. Okay. You can take the test as many times as you want, whenever you want, etc. Now we do have a question in the lab. Let me go ahead and explain to you where you can find the slides. Okay. The slides for today are, again, you go back to your CIP, go to certification, go to get certified. Instead of clicking on get certified again, you're going to click on recorded live trainings. So click on that recorded live training, then click on our course, which is fundamentals, and there you'll see the actual 2-hour video. You'll have the slides and the actual lab guide. Okay. All right, so again, those of you that are going to take the exam, good luck. Once you complete the exam and pass it, you can go ahead and end your actual session. I will go ahead and put in the chat the actual Uber Eats link. Good luck. On behalf of all of us here at Sumo Logic, we thank you for joining us for this session. We look forward to you joining us in future sessions. I will be here for an hour to assist you with any questions you may have on the actual exam.